Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to day 4. No, wait, day 3. Can't keep up without you guys here on my calendar to remind me. Anyways, it's Thursday, December 3rd. Happy birthday, Addie. I completely forgot to say that today in our Google Meet. Hopefully you're watching this. I saw that you were doing it for your reading log, so happy birthday. I'm sorry I forgot to tell you that earlier. We'll do something special tomorrow. I'm reading the best Christmas pageant ever. If you're just now joining us, I post these every day in our ELA folder. So if you'd like to catch up, you can go back. Usually just read for about 10 minutes or so a day. So it's something fun to do and listen to, a fun story. It's about the Herdmans, which is a family with a bunch of kids, and they are a little crazy and a little scary. And you'll see why, because every day I read, I'm just like, wow, this is the first time I've read this book, so it's kind of eventful. All right, so let's see. Chapter 3. Mrs. Armstrong, who was still trying to run things from her hospital bed, said that the same people always got the main parts, but it's important to give everybody a chance. She told Mother over the telephone. Let me tell you what I do. Mother sighed. Turn off the heat under the pork chops. All right, Helen, she said. Mrs. Armstrong called Mother at least every other day, and she always called at supper time. Don't let me interrupt your supper, she always said, and then went right ahead and did it anyway, while my father paced up and down the hall, saying things under his breath about Mrs. Armstrong. Here's what I do, Mrs. Armstrong said. I get them all together and tell them about the rehearsals, and that they must be on time and pay close attention. Then I tell them that the main parts are Mary and Joseph, and the wise man and the angel of the Lord. And then I always remind them that there are no small parts, only small actors. Do they understand what that means? Mother asked. Oh, yes, Mrs. Armstrong said. Later, Mother asked me if I knew what that meant, about small parts and small actors. I didn't really know. None of us did. It was just something Mrs. Armstrong always said. I guess it means that the short kids have to be in the front row of the angel choir, or else nobody can see them. I thought so, Mother said. It doesn't mean that at all. It really means that every single person in the pageant is just as important as every other person, that the littlest baby angel is just as important as Mary. Go and tell that to Alice Winlickin, I said, and Mother told me not to be so fresh. She didn't get very mad, though, because she knew I was right. You could have a Christmas pageant without any baby angels. But you couldn't have one without a Mary. Mrs. Armstrong knew it too. I always start with Mary, she told Mother over the telephone. I tell them that we must choose our Mary carefully, because Mary was the mother of Jesus. I know that, Mother said, wanting to get off the telephone and cook the pork chops. Yes, I tell them that our Mary should be a cheerful, happy little girl who is unselfish and kind to others. Then I tell them about Joseph, that he was God's choice to be Jesus' father, and our Joseph ought to be a little boy. She went on and got as far as the second wise man when Mother said, Helen, I have to go now. There's somebody at the door. Actually, there was somebody at the door. It was my father standing on the front porch in his coat and hat, leaning on the doorbell. When Mother let him in, he took off his hat and bowed to her. Lady, can you give me some supper? I haven't had a square meal in 3 days. Oh, for goodness sake, Mother said. Come on in. What will the neighbors think to see you standing out there ringing our own doorbell? And why didn't you ring the doorbell 10 minutes ago? Mrs. Armstrong called Mother 2 more times that week to tell her that people could hem up costumes but couldn't cut them, and tell her not to let the angel choir wear lipstick. And by Sunday, Mother was already sick of the whole thing. After church, we all filed into the back 7 pews, along with 2 or 3 Sunday school teachers who were supposed to keep everybody quiet. It was a terrible time to try to keep everybody quiet. All the little kids were tired, and all the big kids were hungry. And all the mothers wanted to go home and cook dinner. and all the fathers wanted to go home and watch the football game on TV. Now, this isn't going to take very long, Mother told us. My father had said it better not take very long because he wanted to go home and watch the football game too. He also wanted to eat. He said he hadn't had a decent meal all week. First, I'm going to tell you about the rehearsals, Mother said. We'll have our rehearsals on Wednesdays at 6:30. We're only going to have 5 rehearsals, so you must all try to be present at every one. What if we get sick? Asked a little kid in the front pew. You won't get sick, Mother told him, which was exactly what she told Charlie that morning when Charlie said he didn't want to be a shepherd and would be sick to his stomach if she made him be one. Now you little children in the cradle room in the primary class will be our angels, Mother said. You'll like that, won't you? They all said yes. What else could they say? The older boys and girls will be shepherds and guests at the inn and members of the choir. Mother was really zipping along, and I thought how mad Mrs. Armstrong would be about all the things she was leaving out. And we needed a Mary and Joseph, the 3 wise men, and the angel. There aren't hard parts, but they're very important parts. So those people must absolutely come to every rehearsal. What if they get sick? It was the same little kid. And it made you wonder what kind of little kid he was to be so interested in sickness. They won't get sick either, Mother said, looking at a little cross. Now we all know what kind of person Mary was. She was quiet and gentle and kind, and the little girl who plays Mary should try to be that kind of a person. I know that many of you would like to be Mary in our pageant, but of course we can only have one Mary. So I'll ask for volunteers and then we'll decide together which girl should get the part. That was pretty safe to say, since the only person who ever raised her hand was Alice Winlicken. But Alice just sat there chewing on a piece of her hair and looking down at the floor. And the only person who raised her hand this time was Emma Jean Herdman. Did you have a question, Emma Jean? Mother asked. I guess that was the only reason she could think of for Emma Jean to have her hand up. No, Emma Jean said, I want to be Mary. She looked back over her shoulder, and Ralph wants to be Joseph. Yeah, Ralph said. Mother just stared at them. It was like a detective movie when the nice little old gray-haired lady sticks a gun in the bank window and says, give me all your money, and you can't believe it. Mother couldn't believe this. Well, she said after a minute, we want to be sure that everyone has a chance. Does anyone else want to volunteer for Joseph? No one did. No one ever did, especially not Elmer Hopkins. But he couldn't do anything about it because he was the minister's son. One year he didn't volunteer to be Joseph, and neither did anyone else. And afterward, I heard Reverend Hopkins talking to Elmer out in the hall. You're going to be Joseph, Reverend Hopkins said. That's it. I don't want to be Joseph, Elmer told him. I'm too big and I feel dumb out there, and all those little kids give me a pain in the neck. I can understand that, Reverend Hopkins said. I can even sympathize, but till somebody else volunteers for Joseph, you're stuck with it. Nobody's ever going to do that, Elmer said. I even offered Grady Baker 50 cents to be Joseph, and he wouldn't do it. I'm going to have to be Joseph for the rest of my life. Cheer up, Reverend Hopkins told him. Maybe somebody will turn up. I'll bet he didn't think that somebody would be Ralph Herdman. All right, Mother said. Ralph will be our Joseph. Now, does anyone else want to volunteer for Mary? Mother looked all around trying to catch somebody's eye, anybody's eye. Janet? Roberta? Alice? Don't you want to volunteer for this year? No, Alice said, so low you could hardly hear her. I don't want to. Nobody volunteered to be the wise men either, except Leroy, Claude, and Ollie Herdman. So there was Mother, stuck with a Christmas pageant full of Herdmans in main roles. There was only one Herdman left over and one main role left over. And you didn't have to be very smart to figure out that Gladys was going to be the angel of the Lord. What do I have to do? Gladys wanted to know. The angel of the Lord was the one who brought the good news to the shepherds, Mother said. Right away, all the shepherds began to wiggle around in their seats, figuring that any good news Gladys brought them would come with a smack in their teeth. Charlie's friend, Toby Carmichael, raised his hand and said, I can't be a shepherd. We're going to Philadelphia. Why didn't you say that before? Mother asked. I forgot. Another kid said, my mother doesn't want me to be a shepherd. Why not? Mother said. I don't know. She just said, don't be a shepherd. One kid was honest. Gladys Herdman hits too hard, he said. Why, Gladys isn't going to hit anybody, Mother said. What an idea. The angel just visits the shepherds in the fields and tells them Jesus is born and hits them, said the kid. Of course he was right. You could just picture Gladys whamming shepherds left and right, but Mother said that was perfectly ridiculous. I don't want to hear another word about it, she said. No shepherds may quit or get sick, she added before the kid in the front pew could ask. While everybody else was leaving, Mother grabbed Alice Windlicken by the arm and said, Alice, why in the world didn't you raise your hand to be married? I don't know, Alice said, looking mad. But I knew I heard Imogene Herdman telling Alice what would happen to her if she dared to volunteer. All the ordinary, everyday Herdman things like clonking you on the head and drawing pictures all over your homework papers and putting worms in your coat pocket. I don't care, Alice told her. I don't care what you do. I'm always marrying the pageant. And next spring, Imogene went on, squinching up her eyes. Stop. I think I'll stop there, guys. I think it's been about 10 minutes and I'm only halfway through chapter 4. So she kind of cuts off there. It says the next spring, so Imogene's threatening her. So we're going to stop there on page 47. All right. I hope you enjoyed this fun read aloud. It's just for fun. You're not required to listen to it. Just something fun. I'm going to do a daily Christmas read aloud every day. So when I finish this chapter book, we'll go on to other books. So tune in for that tomorrow. Bye, guys.